is going on, y'all? It is the Caveman back at it again with another video, and welcome to the second episode of Coach Me Up. This week I had my guy Justus General on the channel. He is also a part of the Built-in Buffalo team, and just like week one, this was an absolute blast with Justus. We had a great time having killer conversation. It was just an absolute pleasure to have him on the channel. If you are unfamiliar with how this series works, it is a series in which I have a guest on my channel in a podcast style of video, and I attempt to pick at my guest's brain through a series of different games that I have to offer to my guest. And I attempt to pick at my guest's brain and spark healthy, good football conversation through a different series of games that I have to offer. So game number one is called Devil's Advocate. If you've ever been in an argument with somebody and they're constantly taking the opposite side, that is called being the Devil's Advocate, and that's exactly what this game is. So for the sake of example, say I ask my guest whether or not they like pizza or chicken more. Even if they say pizza, and I also like pizza more, I'm going to fight the battle for chicken because I am being the Devil's Advocate. The second game I have to offer to my guest is called 2-Minute Drill. The idea of this game is to put my guest on the spot to answer 5 questions in a matter of 25 seconds. The idea of this game is just to kind of put them under pressure, have them answer a question that is relatively opinionated, that is a yes or no answer or maybe a one-word answer. A pretty quick question, but it has them thinking on their feet. And game 3, which is new to the series, I did not have a third game to offer last week. This week I do. This game is called The Graphic Addict. This game is as straightforward as it gets. I pull a graphic off of the internet, I send it to my guest, and the graphic is one of those things that say like build your team with $15, and then we talk about the team that you can build out of the $15 with the players they offer up. Just a graphic like that, or maybe a graphic that says who's overrated, who's an underrated player. Just a simple graphic like that, and we have conversation. I might alter these games as the episodes move forward, but nevertheless, I want to give a quick big thank you to Justus for joining the channel. It was a blast to have him on. It was a pleasure. We had very good conversation. He has his own podcast on the Built-in Buffalo Podcast Network. I'll have that link down in the description below. It's called the Windchill Factor. It comes out every Tuesday, so be sure to check that out. Like I said, link in the description. One more quick thing. Eat your damn mots. You guys know the drill around here. I don't have to explain it too much. If you ever are hungry, thirsty, whatever it might be, eat your damn mots. Without further ado, let's get into episode 2 of Coach Me Up. Alrighty, so I got my buddy over on the Built-in Buffalo YouTube channel. He actually has his own podcast on the Built-in Buffalo Podcast Network. His name is Justus General. He does his podcast on Tuesdays. Why don't you tell us all about that, Justus?
Yeah, the Windchill Factor podcast is every Tuesday on the Built-in Buffalo Network. I'm a YouTube partner with Caveman. I throw a bunch of videos up there as far as just highlight videos and things like that. So yeah, listen to my podcast, watch videos, whatever you want to do. I appreciate all the support.
Yeah, Justus does a lot of the, as far as I know, I haven't been on the team for that long, but he does most of the big highlight compilations, right? Like the Josh Allen, what you do, you make all the big highlight compilations that go up on the channel. And like I said, he does have his own podcast on Tuesdays, and he did drop the spoiler. We're going to have our own show. I think Monday nights, we're still trying to kind of figure that one out, but nevertheless,
I was actually talking about the highlight videos, but if you want to tell it, we definitely.
Oh,
get that.
That's spoiler too. Yeah, we are having our own show. That's something that is in the works behind the scenes. So a little spoiler alert from the both of us, somewhat partially, but nevertheless, I have Justus on for the game that I like to play called Coach Me Up. I have it coming out every Friday. Wanted to keep the series going. It went pretty well with Vince last week, and I decided why not have another one of my Built-in Buffalo members on the video once again. And so, Justus, what game do you think you'll want to play? I gave him the rundown of the games before we hopped into it. I gave you the rundown in the intro as well. So, without further ado, what do you got in mind?
First of all, shout out to my man Vince. That's my boy. But I'll do the Devil's Advocate game. I like that. Right, I like the sound of that one.
Devil's Advocate's 2 for 2 in the first two episodes.
Oh, that's what he did too.
Yeah, he did. He did Devil's Advocate. He was pretty intrigued with that one. It seems like that'll probably be the favorite. I got to find a way to spice up some of the other ones are more popular, but nevertheless. All right, the Devil's Advocate question for you. This is something that it's pretty subjective, I would like to say, and I think it could go either way. The Devil's Advocate question is, what position would you consider to be more important on the defensive side of the ball? The middle linebacker or a safety? And just, I understand it could be a question that it has a lot of dependencies. It depends on the team or, the other positions or who we're talking about. Try to ignore all of the outside dependencies just straight up, what is more important?
I feel like the middle linebacker is pretty much the quarterback of the defense. I feel like they are the people who have to see the field, know what type of offense is being played and what type of plays come out of what formation. And, they're the guys that have to see whether it's run, pass, go, and be, the first, the second, if not the first line of defense. They've got to be able to run, stop. They've got to be able to pass rush. They've got to be able to play coverage. There's just a lot that goes into being a linebacker, period. And then the middle linebacker specifically, even more duties are, basically put on you. So I would say that the middle linebacker is probably more important.
Yeah, and since this is devil's advocate, I'm not going to tell you what I actually feel, but I'm going to take the other side. Like you said, the first thing that came out of your mouth was the middle linebacker is the quarterback of the defense, and that is the immediate answer that I've gotten when I've had this conversation with other people. The counter argument, in my opinion, is the safety is the last line of defense. This is a pass-heavy league nowadays. I think if we were talking about, I guess, which I didn't make too clear, I was more talking about the current era of the NFL. This is a pass-heavy league, right? If you're not playing against maybe a Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers, a Josh Allen, if you're not playing against a top-tier quarterback, then I think having average to below average safeties you might be able to get away with. But we're getting into a league now where these quarterbacks are creative, they can run and they can throw far. I think safety's the last line of defense. It's becoming so much more important. We got guys like Justin Herbert that can really heave the ball. Joe Burrow, he's not got the strongest arm, but he's creative in the pocket as well. It really, a lot of responsibility is being relied on the last line of defense. I think when you look at over the last 10 years or so, especially going back to, I would say the league changed from more of a run heavy style to a pass style. I would say over the last 10 years. I would say that I could make the argument that most Super Bowl winning defenses had a better unit as far as the safeties go in comparison to the linebacker, as far as inside linebackers or middle linebackers go, depending on the 3-4-3 style scheme. I'm going to stop rambling. I'll give you a second to respond.
Oh no, man, you're all good.
That was all it was.
I would say that there are 4 phases to offense. You got your run, short throw, intermediate throw, deep pass. And your linebacker is going to be somewhat responsible for 3 of the 4 in the run, the short, the intermediate, and then the deep, and then intermediate is also for like the safety. So just in that aspect of just how football works, I would say the linebackers have a little bit more responsibility on a given play because every play, actually a fraction of the plays are probably going to be intermediate or deep passes. So that means every other player linebacker is going to be somewhat responsible for, sniffing out that offense and making a play.
Yeah, I would agree. Absolutely. And I came up with this argument because I was making a list myself about what positions were most important. Then I was going to put together a list of, the best players at said position. And I got to these 2 positions and I was like, what is actually more important? Because especially with the freak athletes that are in the league nowadays, these positions specifically on the defensive side of the ball, I think these are the 2 most versatile, players on the field. The middle linebackers, they're fast nowadays. They play sideline to sideline. These dudes can fill gaps. They're strong. But then you also have safeties that can play safety. They can do their responsibility on the back end. But they're doing stuff that linebackers can do as well. So, these 2 positions, it's becoming a very versatile role for both of these positions. And I think I would give the edge to the safety just simply because of that reason. We got guys like Jamal Adams. I understand Isaiah Simmons was more of a linebacker now that he's been in the NFL, but he's somebody that fits that description as well. But it's really interesting just how versatile both of these positions really are. You can't really say that about many other positions on either side of the ball, to be quite honest.
Yeah, I agree. And honestly, just like you said, these days in the NFL, they're kind of interchangeable a little bit if you find the right player like Isaiah Simmons. There's guys who can, switch from a linebacker to a safety, because some of these guys are like crazy fast now. You got guys like Devin White running a 4.5, which is ridiculous. So like he could easily play safety if he wanted to, So again, I think they're somewhat interchangeable. But if you were to say linebacker or safety, I would say okay, it's a little bit more of a closer, like the gap is narrow. But middle linebacker specifically versus safety, I would say middle linebacker just because traditionally those are the guys who it's on your shoulders. I'm sorry, I'm blanking on Ray Lewis's, the Luke Kuechlys, the Patrick Willis's, Tremaine Edmonds for our defense. Although that's probably a bad example because I think our safeties would probably be.
I bounced that idea in my head as well when I was thinking to myself about this. Tremaine Edmonds, everybody says the joke at this point is like, oh, everybody says he's young. That's why he's kind of having some growing pains. That's sort of the running joke with Tremaine Edmonds. But, he does truly have a lot of responsibility. And that just goes back on the point of how versatile you have to be as a middle linebacker. And especially when a point I want to get into on this conversation is pass rush is I think it is a very big X factor in a conversation like this that I did not want to mention yet because, once again, I didn't want to bring up dependencies. I wanted to keep it straight up. So just kind of veering off the point because I was being the devil's advocate in this conversation. To defend the middle linebackers, I would say I think you don't get away with being an average middle linebacker when you have a good pass rush, but if you have a very good pass rush like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers do, I think you can get away with more of an average safety on the back end because they kind of have their job description cut in half. They're playing that back end, but sometimes the other team's offense has to get the ball out quick, so they're able to cheat up. If they're fast enough, they can go back and forth. They have their job description almost cut in half. Whereas a middle linebacker, your job really doesn't change. You're still having to make the plays in the short routes. You're still having to fill gaps in the run game. To defend middle linebacker, I would say, even with a heavy pass rush, you really can't get away with being an average to, a slightly above average middle linebacker. You got to be still on your game at all times.
Yeah, for sure. And honestly, they all work in tandem. If your defensive line is good and they can, fill gaps, then all your linebacker needs to do is see, what's going on in the backfield and, read the play. And then your safeties, do the same thing just at a deeper level. And that again will speak to why I would say that the middle linebacker is a little more important because, basically you're as a defense, I played nose tackle in high school and they told me my job was not to get tackles. My job was straight up to eat up, linemen and close gaps so that the linebacker can come and make a play and then read everything that's going on the field. Safeties, honestly, in football overall, I don't think that safeties are too. I think once you get to the NFL is when safeties actually become like a real thing, like really important. But in every other phase, they're kind of phased out only because most people will run for the most part, and your linebackers are going to be, your star players. And even if you do have a star player who is a safety, you would typically put him at linebacker because the athleticism would allow him to be able to, chase people around the field.
Yeah, that is a good point. I actually never even thought about that. And I think I would agree. You really, throughout high school, I only kicked in high school. I was a kicker for 2 years. So I didn't actually play on offense or defense. I was a special teamer. Nevertheless, the freak athletes, those kids were on the field in positions where they were going to make the most of an impact. Mm-hmm. I went to school with a kid that he was a freak. Like I've never seen nothing like it. Still haven't seen anything like it up to this point. And, ironically enough, he did play a lot of safety because we were a good football team at that point. But, he still was everywhere. He was still in the middle of the field. He was fast enough to get back. Just you really want those kind of kids in the areas of the field where they can make the most impact. Right. And that is an interesting point that you make. I never really thought about it that way, that once you get to the NFL, that's when safety becomes a true responsibility because arm strength even, it's not really there. I mean, as far as college goes, it's there, but maybe the lower levels of college and obviously high school as well, the arm strength.
Yeah, really for college, it's like the top 5-10%. You got your quarterbacks actually throwing all over the yard. But everybody else, for most, like you look at the Navy Army games, it's always straight up running all the time. A really interesting perspective. The one last point I did want to make, because after all,
I am a team. I would be a team safety person in this sort of aspect. So I wasn't just playing devil's advocate. That is actually my true opinion. I did mention how I briefly went over the safety unit and then, the inside linebacker or the middle linebacker for each Super Bowl winner up since 2010 with the Saints. And it is close for a lot of the winners, but I was finding myself, realizing that the better unit was on the back end. 2010 with the Saints, they had John Vilma. I was 10 years old.
Jonathan Vilma, yeah.
Jonathan Vilma, yeah. He was I think he was a Pro Bowl linebacker at that year specifically.
Oh yeah, for sure. He was a beast out of the youth.
They also had Roman Harper on the back end, right? And they also had Darren Sharper. It was Darren Sharper and Roman Harper. Darren Sharper, I think, was an All-Pro and a Pro Bowler that season. Roman Harper was a Pro Bowler. So, obviously, it's almost kind of like a 2-on-1 sort of aspect. You're talking about two good safeties to one good middle linebacker. The Eagles, they had Malcolm Jenkins on the back end. They had average linebackers. They were, they obviously did their job. Even
to
as far as
point,
the Chiefs, yeah, go ahead.
To your point, in today's NFL, honestly, your better defenses are probably going to have like elite safety play. And that's because today, honestly, the safeties play a lot of linebacker roles. Like, they sit there in the middle of the field, they go and they rush the quarterback. Like your Jamal Adams is basically a linebacker playing deeper than most linebackers do. Like, you know what I mean? So to your point, yeah, that is true that most good defenses probably have with elite safety play. Yeah,
then literally you just took the words right out of my mouth. It just kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier. These guys are so versatile. They can really do anything. If they're fast and freakishly athletic and they understand their assignment to enough of a capacity, they could be really impactful. All right.
Absolutely.
Anything else on that said topic?
No, I mean, I just because now that you mentioned it, I hadn't really thought about it, but like the linebacker is pretty. I don't want to say dying, but you definitely have like your best players in the league. They aren't linebackers anymore. Yeah. A lot of them are safeties now. Derwin James, Jamal Adams, Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer, guys like, so yeah, most of the great defensive players are linebackers. So I definitely see your point.
Yeah. And
safeties, excuse me.
No, I gotcha. And, kind of dying, I guess that would almost be the right word. And it might not even be, fair, because I feel like guys like Bobby Wagner, as much recognition as they get, they're still one of the best football players, better defenders in the league. And you feel like you don't hear that guy's name very often. Granted, how much do you think he deserves to have his name said these days? That's another conversation. But I mean, even Levante David, I feel like these guys have a ceiling as far as how much they're talked about, and they deserve to be talked about so much more. But I guess that kind of falls back on the point that maybe they're just not being looked at as important. Maybe the safeties are just, or secondary in general, are just being, touted highly in comparison to the linebackers.
Yeah, those safeties are making plays. They're making game-changing plays, like Antoine Winfield Jr. specifically in the playoffs last year. Although Levante David and Devin White, played phenomenally, the rookie was back there making game-changing plays and interceptions and punching the ball out, like things like that. So I think being able to see the field from that far back and being able to diagnose plays gives them an advantage. And if you're as uber athletic like an Antoine Winfield Jr., you're able to go up there, like I said, diagnose plays, and then impose your will on the offense, with a better opportunity than a linebacker who's maybe slower might be able to have.
Right, yeah. So we wrapped up Devil's Advocate, and we figured why not have more time to play another game. So we're going to do 2-minute drill. This game is pretty simple. I'm going to give 25 seconds to Justus to answer 5 questions that are just opinionated. Some questions might have you thinking for a second, so it's not, a yes or no question right away. It might have you, thinking for a second. But the idea is to make you answer the question pretty quickly on your feet. So let's get right into it. So I'll start the thing on my watch. I'll probably put like a timer on screen when I edit it. Right, go. Name an NFL team you think needs to blow it all up and rebuild, but is not doing so.
Lions.
Who do you think should be the Saints starting quarterback in 2021?
Jameis Winston, that's easy.
Is Mike Evans a top 10 wide receiver?
Absolutely.
If the Bills don't sweep the AFC East, who would be the team to give us a loss?
Dolphins. Patriots. I'm taking it back.
All right, so you said for the first question, which I thought was interesting, name an NFL team that would have to blow it up is not doing so. You said the Lions. I would expect them to be one of the prime suspects for a question like that. I think for me, I would almost say the Raiders or maybe even the Falcons. I feel like the Raiders are just in this endless loop.
Falcons is a good one.
And the Falcons are like in the middle of like a rebuild, but not a rebuild. Like, I don't know what they're doing. I don't think anybody really knows what they're doing, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like,
I say the Lions because, the game was starting and I was a little nervous. I was thinking of a team. I don't know if they didn't blow it up, honestly, because I couldn't really tell you anybody else on that team other than Matt Stafford. So getting rid of him or, getting Jared Goff back in for him, I'm not sure if that's technically blowing it up or not. But I know that team is like they're kind of like what you say the Raiders are. It's just like endless mediocrity. It's like what we were for the 20 years.
Yeah,
because you weren't bad enough to get a great pick, but you weren't good enough to ever make the playoffs. That's kind of how I see the Lions.
Yeah, I mean they downgraded in every aspect of the offensive side of the ball. I mean, they went from Matthew Stafford to Jared Goff, from Kenny Galladay, Marvin Jones, and Danny Amendola to Quentin Cyphers, Tyrell Williams, and like Rashad Perriman. It's like the downgrades. Yeah, exactly.
The first two receivers.
Who are that? I only know off the top of my head because I just talked about it like 2 days ago in one of my own videos. It's the only reason why I know these guys' names. I mean, I was shocked. They still have DeAndre Swift and they got TJ Hawkinson, but I mean, God, they're bad. They are really bad. I can't even say did they blow it up because they have Jared Goff. Jared Goff isn't like a blow it up kind of quarterback. I don't know.
I'm not sure. Maybe that was a bad answer. I really like the Falcons. I really like they need to blow it up.
Oh my God, I just can't not think of the play again when the Packers were playing against the Falcons last year, and Robert Tonyan did like a full somersault in the secondary and still caught a touchdown. I'm not sure if you remember that, but that just was that last year or the year before? But anyway, that just literally was the story of the Falcons season.
Yeah, the Falcons are super duper unlucky. It's like you go to a Super Bowl, they come back and win. And then from that point on, I'm not sure if it's a confidence thing. I'm not really sure what's going on, but they just can't seem to figure out how to win games. And it's not like they don't have they didn't have a prolific offense to be able to win games because they were scoring, they were moving the ball. Matt Ryan was playing fine, but their defense was like god awful. And then again, time management was god awful. It was just like a lot of factors. They were beating themselves basically.
Mm-hmm. All right. And the second question that I asked was, who do you think the Saints starting quarterback would be in 2021? I would have said Jameis without a question, without even blinking. But I know there are some people, I made a video about it, I think I would say over a month ago, and people were trashing me for saying Taysom Hill is not an NFL quarterback. I was getting trashed for saying that Jameis Winston is absolutely no doubt in my mind the starting quarterback. And I was shocked. Those people love Taysom Hill for absolutely no reason. That guy is nothing more than I don't even know. What is he? What the hell does he do? I don't even know.
He's like Tim Tebow to me.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what? Maybe that's disrespectful. And I don't mean to be disrespectful. I just know that when I saw Drew Brees go for the 5 games last year, which Taysom started, I'm thinking to myself, if you would have just given Jameis a chance, y'all would have watched him play better than Drew Brees. And then maybe you put yourself in a position to see the NFC Championship game or something to that magnitude. I just think that Drew Brees obviously is a better quarterback than Jameis Winston from the shoulders up, but he can't throw anymore. He couldn't throw anymore. So it was okay, I get why you want to let him ride his, finish his career, which is fair. That's cool because he is one of the greatest of all time. But I understand that Sean Payton made a promise to Taysom Hill, but at the same time, man, there are 53 people more when you consider the coaching staff. There are people who are killing themselves in order to win a championship. You're supposed to give yourself the best chance to succeed. Because you made a promise to some guy specifically. I personally think that Jameis Winston is the best quarterback on our roster last year. You
I would
know,
agree.
he threw 30 interceptions and 30 touchdowns, sure, but he got LASIK surgery, and I honestly think that's going to be better for him because there were some times where he didn't look like he knew where he was throwing the ball to, right?
Yep.
But I honestly think that he'll be better for it, and honestly, I think the Saints are going to be a powerhouse because he's going to win the job in training camp this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I respect that opinion completely. And my anticipation of the Saints would be that exact thing. I just don't have faith in Sean Payton to make that decision to name Jameis Winston the permanent starting quarterback. I think he's just going to try to do this little bullshit where he's got Taysom Hill here for this play, and then he brings in Jameis, almost like a Jalen Hurts kind of Carson Wentz weird scenario that was going on. It's just stick to one guy. You know, this isn't high school or, college even. This is the NFL. You got to just stick to one guy, let him ride out. And I don't know. I just feel like they're not going to put Taysom Hill away, and it's really going to be their downfall. And I would agree. Like Jameis Winston could have won them some games last year. It's not that bad. I mean, especially when you're talking about the Saints, they're a good team all around.
Yeah.
His mistakes could be made up for in other areas, whereas Tampa Bay, that at the time he was playing there, at least, that really wasn't the case. His mistakes were very costly, but for the Saints, it could be another story. He didn't have a run game with the Buccaneers. He's got Alvin Kamara to dump off to if he ever has to. Drew Brees did it for years, abused Alvin Kamara. It's little things he didn't have over in Tampa Bay, and just a good team around him in general. And I also think that I just felt like when you had Taysom Hill in at quarterback, especially last year for those 5 games or whatever he played, he just kind of took away from Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara's production took a massive dip, which, they were still scoring and winning games, but you don't take away from Alvin Kamara. You just don't do that. The dude is one of the best running backs in the NFL, arguably the best, depending on who you talk to. You don't bring in a guy that struggles to pass. I guess it depends who you talk to once again, but just a guy that takes away from one of your better players, it doesn't make sense to me. You already have a guy that can do that. Why put in somebody that's going to take away from Kamara? I never understood that either. Yeah,
because Taysom wants to run. He is, I would say he's like a average thrower, but mostly his strong suit is running and being physical and going out there and just basically being more athletic than people. Yeah. Which, is fine. I'm not knocking it, but he's not close to as athletic as Alvin Kamara is. So I respect that you want to run, but I would rather have 41 running rather than Taysom Hill. So
absolutely. Yeah, we're completely on the same page about that. And it just shocks me that there are people that would disagree with either of us on that subject.
Yeah, I don't understand it.
And the next question I asked, is Mike Evans a top 10 wide receiver? Once again, another question that I would completely agree with without even blinking. But I'm not sure if you use TikTok all that often. I go on TikTok to look at bogus TikTok takes because I've been trying to run a series on my channel where I just go on TikTok and look up these moronic TikTok takes. And there's this trend going on right now amongst the football community on TikTok, if you will. That is just, they're saying that Mike Evans not only is not a top 10 wide receiver, but people are saying he's not even top 15. The shit that I hear on TikTok from people about why Mike Evans isn't a top 10 or even top 15 wide receiver, it's just, I don't know. They try to just mesh this argument to make it sound like it makes sense. But in reality, it's like, I don't know. It's as ridiculous as it sounds, long story short.
Yeah, I don't understand that at all. Mike Evans is for sure one of the 10. See, I am debating if I should put him in top 5. This guy is 6'5", runs a 4.5. Are you kidding me right now? How is that guy not top 10?
That's what I mean.
Top 15 is disrespectful.
It just, I'm all for, hyping up younger guys and stuff, but there are people putting Justin Jefferson in these lists that are above Mike Evans. It's like, I just don't see it. DK Metcalf even, it's like, yeah, these guys are good and they will be good, but right now you're out of your tree if you're taking either of these guys over Mike Evans, in my personal opinion. Mike Evans. You
said Justin Jefferson and who was the other one?
DK Metcalf.
Which he's not better than Mike Evans.
No, I wouldn't say so either. Not even close. It's like these younger guys. Yeah, they're coming on the scene. And maybe in a couple of years you can make that argument, but right now you got to be out of your mind. He's the best, or at least one of the best red zone targets in the NFL. He's had, and the TikTok argument is that they don't see the six consecutive 1,000-yard seasons as necessarily as an accomplishment because the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have been so pass heavy over the last 6 years. Yeah, but still,
why were they able to be pass heavy?
Yeah, it's like that. Why is that something to take away from him?
Right?
I don't.
That's like the argument people use where they say Josh only got his numbers because we threw all the time.
Yeah.
Why weren't we able to throw all the time?
I know. I can't even think about it because it drives me insane. Some of the stuff on there. There's also been recent Christian McCaffrey slander. People are saying he's not even in the top 5. I don't know.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I don't know. People are just out of the tree.
They don't watch football. They're either that or they're talking for or like reaction. Yeah, that's ridiculous. Those are two of the worst takes I've ever heard.
Oh yeah, by far. There's someone like I could go on TikTok and there's these bigger pages that seem to be creating these narratives, and then all of these smaller pages, just like TikTok in general, with anything else, they're picking up on it and they hear something that, oh, it sounds like a good argument. It sounds like it makes sense. So I'm going to say it too to make myself sound smart. And then it just snowballs into all this. And I feel like these people, it gets to a point where these kids, they're kids. A lot of them are younger kids, especially, from anywhere to like maybe 22 and younger. They're all sitting here saying like, Christian McCaffrey's not as good of a runner. It's not as good as a running back for A, B, and C reason. It's like they're just overthinking and overanalyzing. It's just like, McCaffrey's McCaffrey. That's all you have to say, especially like a guy like Mike Evans. Mike Evans is Mike Evans. Everybody knows what Mike Evans is about. You don't have to explain why he's top 10. That's enough of that. I can go on about that.
Honestly, real quick, just my last point on Mike Evans. Mike Evans' numbers would have been even better last year if Brady had the arm to accompany his skill set.
Yeah.
But Brady is 43, so it's not a knock. He's old, so his arm is not great anymore. But Mike Evans is that boy, so y'all need to stop.
Exactly. It's as simple as that. It really is. And the last question I asked, which you changed your answer to relatively fast. Well, not fast, but you changed your answer. You said, what team would give the Bills a loss in the AFC East if they were not the sweep? You said the Dolphins, but then you went back to the Patriots. What's your thinking on that?
I said the Dolphins because I feel like the Dolphins are the second best team in the AFC East. But when I think about it, I know that Josh is like so dominant versus the Dolphins. And honestly, I feel like it's going to be I feel like Josh is going to be to the Dolphins what Tom Brady was to the Bills, right? Yeah. Every time Tom Brady came to Buffalo, he came to Orchard Park and we're thinking like, this is the time we're going to beat the Patriots, and we get stomped every time. Yep. I feel like Josh, he goes there to Miami or, even at home versus wherever we play Miami, he just loses his mind every time. And the one time he lost to Miami was the Charles Clay drop.
Yeah, the Charles Clay play.
You should have caught, and you should have beat Miami. And that could have been a career highlight for Josh if Charles Clay doesn't drop that pass. But Josh has a ton of career highlights versus Miami. He seems to just have their number. I don't know what the reasoning is. Maybe he likes South Florida, but whatever it is, he just always dominates Miami. So I think that if we were to take an L, which I don't think we will, but if we were, I would say maybe Belichick figures out something and, maybe exploits one thing or another.
Yeah, I would agree completely. I just think I'm not a Tua Tagovailoa believer whatsoever. There are certain quarterbacks in the NFL that I just don't have faith in, and I can go on about a lot of different guys that could stir some controversy, but we won't extend the conversation out that way. Nevertheless, I also think just the type of play style that the Patriots are going to be going into 2021 with is something that could exploit our defense. Just run heavy, 2 tight end sets. That's something we could really struggle with. As far as the Dolphins go, I would assume just 1 tight end, 3 wide receivers. Your typical gun kind of offense from Tua Tagovailoa. That's not something I've thought we struggled with.
I don't trust Tua in that offense at all.
Yeah, and I also don't trust it. It's a lot of responsibility for a guy like him. So I'm just not worried. And, maybe the Patriots defense could even return to some sort of state it used to be. I don't think it ever really will. I think it's kind of lost its step. But still, nevertheless, I think I would agree. If we were to take a loss, it would absolutely be the Patriots.
Yeah, I agree. I do have a question for you, though. I know you said you didn't want to open the the bag of Tua.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Who do you think will have more passing yards this year, Tua Tagovailoa or Jacoby Brissett?
Oh boy. I mean, Tua last year played 3.5 quarters against the Denver Broncos and had 80 passing yards. I mean, like, I don't care who you are. You're in the NFL. Like, I don't care if you're a rookie. Like, I mean, Kendall Hinton could have done that. Like, the dude, like, it's unacceptable. It's as simple as that. And the Denver Broncos were a struggling team last year. Like, it's not like they were going up against, the Rams defense or something absurd. Like, they were a struggling team. And he just, what was he doing? Like, he was getting sacked. I think he took 7 sacks that game. Ryan Fitzpatrick came in and for the last 10 minutes, and the dude he threw for 37 more yards than Tua did in 10 minutes.
Josh threw 48 on the Broncos, by the way. Or was it more? I think we hit 50 versus Broncos, didn't we?
Yeah. Who knows? I mean, it's just they were not a good team. Like, I don't know what his deal was that game. I never really liked the kid either. After he made that comment that was sort of taken out of context. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt when he said, "I thought it would be difficult or more difficult or something like that." It's like, dude, shut up. Like, I get it might be taken out of context, but nevertheless, just keep your mouth shut. You've been in the league for 3 games. Like, just don't even open your mouth. Just say, I went out there, played hard, and my team did their job, and then leave the interview. Like, don't open your mouth.
See, I don't know what context it was in. All I saw was those words, and I was like, what? Like, I couldn't believe he said that. I couldn't believe he let that sequence of words come out of his lips.
That's what I mean. It's like I truthfully don't even know the context. I saw a couple of things on Twitter of people saying, it was somewhat taken out of context, but it doesn't matter. Like you said, that string of sentences to form that word, the media shouldn't be able to twist it that way anyway. You in your position, that shouldn't be something that could be twisted that way. Not even close. So just for the joke of it, I think at this point in my dislike for Tua, I'm gonna say Brissett. Just
I wholeheartedly think it's gonna be Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why. Because last year, Ryan Fitzpatrick allowed Tua to be eased into the lineup because we were like 5-3, I think, when Tua ended up taking over. So they had a pretty good record. And they were thinking like, okay, our star rookie quarterback is supposed to come in and be this great thing. Somebody told me on Twitter he has the left hand of God. Anyway, I digress, right? And Ryan Fitzpatrick put Tua in a position to be good and succeed and gave him a bit of a cushion. I think that Tua coming out of the gate as the starting quarterback, I think before they know it, by like week 7, they might be like 3-4, 2-5.
Yep.
And Robert Flores is going to look at his team and be like, this is a playoff roster. I don't like this. I'm not going to go out this way. And I think he's going to put in Jacoby Brissett because we've seen he's not shy to pull somebody.
Yeah.
And so I think he's going to go with Jacoby Brissett after they go 2-5, 3-4. So
he may very well. I don't know. I agree. He's definitely not scared to pull somebody, but I also think the pulling of quarterbacks last year was because he wanted to see Tua. He wanted Tua to be out there. I think there was something in him where I don't think he could accept the fact that he made the wrong decision in benching Fitz. So I think he just kept throwing in Tua, hoping to God it would eventually work out. And it sort of did at first. Had very little responsibility for those first 3 wins because the defense and special teams were putting up points. He was getting set up in good spots on the field to be able to put up points. He had a very easy job the first 3 weeks or whatever. But once he had a lot of responsibility, his weakness showed. And I just, something about the way that Brian Flores handled it made me feel like he just couldn't accept the fact that he made the wrong decision. And so he kept putting in Fitzpatrick when he had to, but just putting Tua back in the next week, even though Tua played god-awful the week before.
I agree. That's actually a good point. And I accidentally call him Robert Flores. I don't want to, but I do agree with, that's a good point because I didn't think about it like that, because if you put in Tua and he's awful, you can't just then put in Ryan Fitzpatrick to finish the season, because then that messes with the confidence of your quarterback or whatever they say. So I kind of get it now. You want to have him out there and you still want him to feel like, hey, this is your team. You're the guy. We're not going to replace you for a 15-year veteran because he's not going to be here next year. You are, so you want to give him that confidence. So that is a good point. I didn't think about it like that.
Yeah, that was a situation, and people gave a lot of credit to Brian Flores, which he deserved. He was a good coach. I just thought, he kind of fumbled that situation a little bit, and I think people didn't really, take that into account when talking about how good of a coach he was. I felt like that kind of just flew under the radar for some reason. But nevertheless, he's still a good coach. I'm not going to, ride his tailbone about it. He was trying to figure things out with his rookie quarterback, so I can't blame him.
And he was a rookie head coach, so
yeah. That's very true. I didn't even think about that. Gotta just take into the whole bigger picture about things. But nevertheless, I think that'll just about wrap it up. I really enjoyed our conversation. Absolutely.
This has been a blast, man.
Thank you for coming on, Justus. It's been a blast to have you on the channel.
Absolutely, bro. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So there we go, another fun-ass episode of Coach Me Up. Like I said in the beginning of the video, this was an absolute blast. It was a killer episode with tons of healthy conversation. Justus was a pleasure to have on the channel. I am certainly not used to the podcast style of videos on the channel yet. I am getting accustomed to it. I'm getting better at it, but I certainly enjoyed it. I think having my regular style of content, which is a cut commentary, shorter style of video, along with this podcast style of video, which is coming out every Friday, I think it offers up a very good, healthy variety for my channel that I have not had before. Be sure to check out Justus's Windchill Factor podcast every single Tuesday that comes out. Link in the description one more time for you. A big thank you to him, and if you have any thoughts, please leave them down in the comments below. You guys know I love to have conversation with you guys as well. If you enjoyed the video, and I hope you did, please like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. If you want to hit the bell to be notified when I upload, I would appreciate that. If you want to go over to Twitter, follow me over there. I would appreciate that as well. Both Justus and I are a part of the Built-in Buffalo content creation team, so if you enjoy Buffalo Bills content, be sure to go over there and follow and subscribe to them on any social medias that you might have, and I hope to see you in the next one. Peace.